Welcome you all in for another chapter of Trading in the Zone.
Yes.
Today we'll be discussing Chapter 5.
Okay.
The Dynamics of Perception.
Right.
From the audiobook by Mark-Douglas.
This is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
It's all about,
It is.
understanding how our minds actually work when it comes to trading.
Yeah.
And how our perception can actually, sabotage our success in the market.
Totally.
It's like we all know trading is psychological,
Right.
but this chapter really digs deep into, the how and the why.
It does, yeah. And one of the big aha moments for me was the idea that the market itself
Right.
doesn't generate pain or pleasure.
Exactly.
It's just information.
It's just information.
Like a stock price going up or down
Right.
isn't inherently good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's our interpretation of that movement
Yes.
that creates the emotional response.
Precisely.
If we're constantly
Yeah.
viewing the market through the lens of fear or greed,
Fear or greed, yeah.
we're not really seeing it clearly.
You're not seeing the information clearly.
Yeah.
We're just reacting to our own internal chaos.
Right. And that's where the concept of structured energy comes in, right?
Exactly.
This idea that our past experiences,
Yes.
both in trading and in life,
Mm-hmm.
create these mental filters
Yes.
that shape how we perceive new information.
It's exactly.
Like-
Think of it like this. You know how a single bad experience
Yeah.
with a dog can make someone fearful of all dogs?
Totally. Like,
Like-
even if the next dog is a cute little puppy,
Right.
they might still feel that fear because of that past association.
Yes. And Douglas argues that the same thing happens in trading.
How
A
dare it?
string of losses, or even a single traumatic trading experience
Yeah.
can create this structured energy of fear
Right.
that makes us see every new trade as a potential threat.
So we're basically projecting our past pain
Exactly.
onto the present moment,
Onto the present moment, yes.
even if the current market conditions are totally different.
Yeah, and this is why so many traders
Find themselves repeating the same mistakes over and over.
Interesting.
They're trapped in this cycle of fear and reaction,
Okay.
unable to see the market objectively.
So this is starting to make sense,
Yeah.
but how do we actually break free from these limiting associations?
Yeah.
How do we start seeing the market clearly
Okay.
without letting our past dictate our every move?
Well, that's where the real work begins.
Okay,
And Douglas doesn't just leave us hanging with a problem.
good.
He offers some concrete solutions and techniques
Okay.
for rewiring our brains
Okay.
and developing a more objective trader's mentality.
I'm all ears because, honestly, this whole structured energy thing is kind of freaking me out.
Yeah.
I can definitely see how my own past experiences have been clouding my judgment in the market.
Don't worry, you're not alone.
Okay.
We all have these mental filters to some extent.
Right.
The key is becoming aware of them and learning how to manage them.
Okay.
That's exactly what we'll be diving into next.
So to break free from these limiting associations, Douglas emphasizes the importance of conscious awareness.
Okay, so it's about becoming more mindful of our thoughts and feelings
Yes.
as we're trading.
Precisely. We need to start paying attention to those automatic thought patterns
Yeah,
that pop up when we see a certain market signal
right.
or experience a loss.
Like instead of just reacting emotionally, we take a step back
Yes.
and ask ourselves, okay, what's really going on here?
Right.
Is this fear based on something concrete?
Yeah.
Or is it just my past baggage rearing its ugly head?
Exactly. And often just by bringing those thoughts into conscious awareness,
Right.
we can start to loosen their grip on our behaviors.
It's like once we shine a light on those shadowy fears,
Yes,
they lose some of their power.
exactly. And then we can start to challenge those thoughts.
Okay.
Ask ourselves, is this fear really justified in this particular situation?
Mm-hmm.
What's the evidence? What are the probabilities?
So it's about shifting from a place of emotional reaction
Yeah.
to a place of objective analysis.
Precisely. Douglas talks about developing a trader's mentality,
Okay.
which is all about seeing the market through a lens of probabilities and risk management,
Right.
rather than emotional attachment.
That makes sense. So instead of thinking, oh no, I'm going to lose money,
Yeah.
we start thinking, okay, what's my risk on this trade?
Right.
What's my exit strategy if it goes against me?
Exactly.
And what are the potential rewards if I'm right?
It's about having a plan and sticking to it,
Right.
regardless of our emotional state.
But isn't there a danger of becoming too robotic?
That's a great question.
Like, what about intuition and gut feelings?
Yeah.
Aren't those important in trading too?
That's a great question. And Douglas acknowledges that intuition can be a valuable tool,
Okay.
but it needs to be balanced with objective analysis.
Okay.
We need to be able to discern between intuition that's based on solid market understanding,
Right.
and intuition that's just a product of our emotional baggage.
So it's about finding that sweet spot
Yes.
between logic and intuition.
Exactly. And that balance will be different for every trader.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you
Yeah.
and constantly refining your process.
This is all making a lot of sense.
Good.
But it also sounds pretty challenging.
Yeah.
Like, how do we actually change those deeply ingrained thought patterns
Right.
and develop this trader's mentality?
It's definitely not easy.
Right.
But Douglas provides some really practical techniques
Okay.
that we can start implementing right away. And that's actually what I wanted to dive into next.
Okay.
Are you ready for some actionable strategies?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hit me with those actionable strategies. I'm ready to rewire my brain and finally break free from this emotional roller coaster.
One of the most powerful techniques Douglas talks about is monitoring and adjusting your expectations.
That sounds interesting. Tell me more.
It starts with recognizing that our expectations play a huge role in how we perceive market information. Like if we go into a trade expecting a certain outcome,
Right.
and the market does something different. Yeah.
You're likely to get thrown off emotionally.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. It's like if I'm convinced a stock is going to go up and it starts dipping,
Right.
I suddenly panic and start doubting everything.
Exactly. And that panic can lead to impulsive decisions.
Yeah, for sure.
So the key is to become aware of our expectations going into each trade. Like, what are we assuming will happen?
Right.
And are those assumptions realistic based on the current market conditions?
Oh, it's about checking ourselves before we wreck ourselves, basically.
Precisely. And then the adjusting part comes in.
Okay.
We need to be willing to adjust our expectations as the market unfolds, even if it means admitting we were wrong.
That can be tough, though. Our egos don't like to admit we're wrong.
True. But Douglas argues that successful traders are those who can detach from their need to be right.
Right.
And focus on what the market is actually telling them.
So it's about staying flexible and adapting to the ever-changing market landscape.
Exactly. Remember, the market doesn't care about our opinions or our prediction.
Right.
It just does its thing.
Yeah.
And our job as traders is to align ourselves with that reality, not fight against it.
That's a really helpful perspective shift. So monitoring and adjusting expectations is one key technique. What else does Douglas recommend?
He also talks about focusing on what we can control.
Okay.
We can't control the market,
Right.
but we can control our trading plan, our risk management,
Yeah.
and our emotional responses.
It's about taking responsibility for our own actions, basically.
Exactly. It's easy to fall into the trap of blaming the market for our losses or our bad decisions.
Right.
But ultimately, the only thing we have control over is ourselves.
This reminds me of something you said earlier about professional traders not perceiving anything about the market as painful. Is that because they've mastered this ability to focus on what they can control?
Absolutely. Professionals understand that losses are inevitable. It's part of the game. But they don't let those losses define them or derail their trading plan.
They see losses as feedback, not failures.
Exactly. And they use that feedback to refine their strategies and improve their edge. Okay, so we've talked about monitoring expectations, focusing on what we can control. Is there anything else we can do to cultivate this trader's mentality?
The final piece of the puzzle is developing a positive trading mindset.
So it's not just about the technical stuff, but also about our beliefs and attitudes.
Exactly. Douglas emphasizes the importance of believing in our ability to succeed as traders, even when we face setbacks.
It's about having that unshakable confidence, that inner knowing that we can figure this out and achieve our goals.
Precisely. And that confidence comes from preparation, from mastering our craft, and from learning to manage our emotions effectively.
It's a journey of self-discovery as much as it is a journey of learning how to trade.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And as we wrap up this deep dive into the dynamics of perception, I think that's the most important takeaway. Trading is a reflection of our inner world.
So if we want to change our results in the market, we need to start by changing our perception of ourselves and the market.
Exactly. It all starts with awareness. By becoming conscious of our limiting beliefs, our emotional triggers, and our reactive patterns, we can start to break free from those limitations and unlock our true potential as traders.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of what it means to trade from a place of empowerment.
I'm glad to hear that. Remember, the journey is never truly over. The market is constantly evolving, and so are we. But by embracing the principles we've discussed today, you can navigate those changes with more confidence and clarity.
So to recap for our listeners, the key takeaways from this deep dive into the dynamics of perception are: the market itself doesn't generate pain or pleasure. It's our minds that assign those emotions to information. Our past experiences create structured energy within us that can distort our perception of the market, leading to fear-based decisions. But by becoming aware of these patterns and implementing techniques like monitoring our expectations, focusing on what we can control, and developing a positive mindset, we can break free from those limitations and trade with more objectivity and confidence.
Beautifully summarized, and perhaps just as Mark Douglas suggests, this journey of mastering our perception and trading can ripple outwards into other areas of our lives, helping us to become more aware, more resilient, and more empowered in all that we do and